So yeah, so on that Flavius Maximus, issue
Issue
X,
X.
bringing the issues of the day. So yeah, we were just talking about Ish transitioning to vegan things. He was asking me if cashews were vegan, and I was weary of him thinking he was trying to clown.
Being me, being who I am.
Well, yeah,
I
being
understand
you
why you
and
would be
like
weary.
nuts are. I mean, nuts are vegan. Like I can totally switch to like a totally chill, like willing to guide you and help you because I do like to help, and I've been, tasting things, and I'm a bit of a taste maker.
A taste maker.
Well, a taster, more of a taste tester.
Okay.
But either way, I mean, maybe with the clothing, a bit of a taste maker in the present and future. But yeah, either way, a man walks blindly into a grocery store and picks out a random thing of soy milk, tries it, hates it, and says, "Oh man, I don't like soy milk." Right? I've done it before, back when I didn't, when I was brand new. And some places have a lot of options, and you might get some random weird brand that's just horrible. So it's always good to have a vegan friend who can guide you in the right direction.
So how do you feel about soy milk compared to almond milk? Like taste wise.
Soy milk is thicker. It has more, it's denser, it's thicker. It's kind of more filling. I'm more likely to do almond milk. I don't really buy soy milk because there's soy in other things that I eat.
Mm-hmm.
And so as not to, over soy it, even though talks of soy being bad for you were exaggerated and really blown out of proportion, and people ran with it. That being
everything
said,
in moderation, though, right?
Well, that being said, too much of anything is not good, and I've noticed my system, doesn't always like too much soy. It can be like, even like, I don't know, something about soy milk can like be like a gaseous thing.
Are they? Is the taste similar, or are we talking like almond milk just tastes better?
Well, I can't qualify better.
Based on your opinion.
I've just gotten used to the taste of almond milk. So again, I don't know if it's about better. I mean, I probably prefer almond milk at this point. Just
now, is there a distinct flavor with almond milk?
It's a lighter flavor than soy milk. Soy milk it's lighter.
I'm going to try this. So my wife has this Blue Diamond almond milk that I just happened to open up the refrigerator and see.
Mm-hmm.
And it says unsweetened original. Now, why is it unsweetened? Is it naturally sweetened, or do they add
no
they
add
to it?
They add sugar to it. So yeah, the unsweetened's for folks who don't want any sugar.
No, this doesn't have a milky smell. It almost has an odorless smell.
Yeah.
Actually, it's almost odorless. I'm going to pour a little bit and try some right now.
How far did you put your nose in the opening?
I didn't put it in the opening, but I definitely smelled it. Mm-hmm. But I poured it in a cup. I don't smell it.
Yeah.
So it tastes like thick water. Like it doesn't. It tastes like what water may taste like, but thicker. Like it doesn't taste like, how, I don't know if you've had milk. I don't know last time you had milk, but how milk has a distinct taste to it.
Well, there's many different types of milk too. You got your 2%, your 1%, your skim.
Yeah.
They all taste different.
I could actually drink almond milk.
Yeah.
I think it actually has a better taste than cow's milk.
Okay. But even though you don't like, Even though you don't like water and you're describing it as a water taste?
Well, it's thicker. There's a cream to it.
Okay.
So, the texture is different as well.
And now, you being a guy who likes sweet drinks, do you think you would try the sweetened version?
Probably not.
Okay,
I mean,
because with your milk.
would I try it? I would probably try it for sure.
But you
would
might not
that,
might not like it because you don't associate milk with sweetness.
right? Like, and it probably just wouldn't be no, I used to drink sweet milk. Like when I lived in Germany, I used to buy banana milk, orange milk, vanilla milk, chocolate milk.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. Was the banana milk that you bought in Germany, was that banana cow's milk, or was that like a, to your knowledge, a vegan milk?
It was cow's milk.
Oh, okay, because I sometimes I buy banana milk, but it's a vegan milk.
Yeah, like but even still, right? Like milk isn't my thing to just drink. Mm-hmm. So like even when I bought like a banana milk or a flavored milk, it wasn't a regular thing. Right. It was just I had a taste for it. I'll buy, you know what I mean? I'll go with the banana milk, or I'll go with like every few years I have a taste for like strawberry quick. You know what I'm saying? So I just get a strawberry quick, but it won't be. That's why I wouldn't like. I don't see myself having sweetened almond milk in my refrigerator on a regular. Sure. If anything, if I was going to eat it with cereal, I'd just put a couple spoonfuls of sugar in it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I bought some healthy, like natural cereal, not even like the cereal that we're thinking of, but like the ground wheat kind of thing.
Like grape nuts?
No, like more coarse than that. Like a ground wheat kind of thing, like way more coarse than grape nuts. It's not a good taste. It tastes like nothing. And
grape nuts. Remember when grape nuts first came out and they were trying to market them to the high heavens, and they were horrible.
Even grape nuts. I would eat a bowl of grape nuts over this wheat thing.
Well, they added like a sugar content to grape nuts. Kind of like with Gatorade. Like when Gatorade first came out, I know people drink Gatorade recreationally all the time. When it first came out, it was horrible. It was horrible. And they added sugar to it because it tasted so bad. It was bitter.
Well, that's weird because I don't know if I've seen grape nuts with sugar. So they must have two different types.
Well, when you say seen them with sugar, you just like got to read the ingredients and see what, it's not going to say sugar. It might have any of a number of things that constitute sugar.
No, I'm aware. I think it's been a long time because I've not. It must be. There must be different
grape
ones.
Nuts certainly taste better now.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at. Like people put them in yogurts now, and they put them in their salad. You know what I mean? They certainly taste better than in the 80s when they kind of became a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They definitely taste better now.
Yeah.
For sure. Just like granola kind of tastes better. Like it didn't taste bad
in
the 80s.
They definitely
it was just
sweetened it. Yeah, they've definitely sweetened granola. And
I remember when
granola's weird because some of it's vegan, some of it's not.
Well, it's interesting because when I was training really hard, right, they started advertising these granola bars, and I pointed at my wife. I pointed them out to my wife, right? And I said to her, before we even saw the price of them, right, they were advertising them. I said, I promise you, those are $20+ a box. She's like, are you serious? I'm like, look at the ingredients. And like these weren't like the average granola bar that somebody buys, even like healthy granola bar, right? Like you're always getting the bottom of the barrel ingredients, even if they're good ingredients. You know what I mean? Like if you're getting like freeze-dried apples or strawberries or something, you're getting the ones that they couldn't use for anything else. Okay. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but these granola bars had like whole raspberries, whole almonds, coated with dark chocolate, not fake confectioner chocolate, actual dark chocolate. You know what I mean? Right. Which, I don't know if people told you not, like dark chocolate in moderation is very healthy for you.
Yeah.
Most people just don't like it. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's very bitter. You know what I mean? But
it's got some iron in there.
Yeah. Dark chocolate in moderation is healthy. It's very healthy. It's just overindulging because of the sugar, obviously. But that's same with fruit, right? You know what I mean? Like anything that is high in fruit or sugar, you know, if you consume more than you should, you're at risk for diabetes. You know what I mean? Like even good sugars cause the same problem if you in excess. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like it had all of these, and I told her, I'm like, if you look at, like, it had, the granola bar had real granola, and I'm like, Belinda, when's the last time you had real granola? Not honey sweetened or corn
Mhm.
syrup sweetened, but like real granola that,
Yeah.
you know, back in the 80s, like it was good, but it wasn't as good as like granola bars now taste like candy bars.
Yeah, candy bars. Yep.
Real granola
Yeah.
did not taste like no candy bar.
Yeah, this cereal, you know, I had, you know, I was like, got a bunch of bananas, you know, was chopping up the bananas to put in there to make it better. I was thinking of like, can I make it with, because you know it's hot, you eat it hot, right? You warm it up with water. You know, you boil, like you boil it or you microwave it. So I was like, I wonder if I can use almond milk instead of water, but I didn't see that anywhere on the instructions. I didn't want to waste anything or mess anything up, though I'm still of the
Well, you
mindset
should have tried. You could at least tried it.
exactly, yeah. I'm still of the mindset to experiment. I mean, I poured some on top, but it's not the same. I just want to see if the consistency, and because I have, you know, I have almond milk that's sweetened, right? So I figured maybe it would give it more of a taste. I thought of getting agave syrup, but I'm like, I'm not going to get in the habit of getting any sweeteners. The bananas make it okay. I tried apples. That was a bad idea. Apples just don't have the consistency to chop up
Did you
and put
pre-cook
into.
the apples, or you just chopped them
No,
up and cooked it along with? That
I
might be the case.
no, I didn't cook them. I put them in afterwards. I chopped them up
Yeah,
fresh and put
yeah,
them
that's
in.
why. Like you might want to, you know, throw them on the stove, throw a little cinnamon in there, throw some sugar, you know, chop them up, cook them that way.
Well,
You
no,
know what I
if I'm
mean?
gonna do sugar, then that's no, like that's no. The idea is not to do
Or I
sugar.
mean, you don't have to do sugar. You could just throw some oil in there, throw some cinnamon. You don't have to do cinnamon. You can just heat them up on the stove like you would if you were gonna make an apple filling, so that
Yeah,
it softens them up, and then throw them in the. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think bananas are just better. Bananas are just better for that. Um, but yeah, it's a very lots of fiber. It's good. I've been thinking of maybe some different ways of using it, but yeah, you can. I can help you figure out what's good for the old uh, vegan diet.
Well, I was gonna suggest too, another reason why you should try that cereal with milk is, I mean, you know, hot chocolate 90% of the time is meant to be made with water, but how many people make it with milk or oatmeal? You know what I mean? You know, these are water mixes that people use cream for.
Oh well, yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, see the thing with chocolate is it's usually they give it to you so sweet that I'd probably want to use water anyway. Um, and then with oatmeal, um, I figured people probably used water and then just put milk on top, but I'm not sure. Maybe people are just
Mm.
yeah. I
No,
don't
I've
think
I've
people are
actually
boiling.
I've actually won my niece. Well, because you're not really boiling it anymore, and normally, unless you're getting like Quaker Oats, right? Most people are just buying packets of oatmeal
Uh-huh.
and throwing them in the mic.
Right, but with you're saying with milk instead of water?
Yeah. Yep. 2% milk, especially when I make it for my niece. Well, I will use water, but I'll also use milk.
Well, yeah, we're saying the same thing. You're still using water.
No, no, no. As opposed to milk, to water, I'll use milk.
Oh, I see.
I'm not
Okay.
putting it on the pot and cooking it that way, even though I don't think that that you couldn't. I mean, my mom used to boil milk with nutmeg all the time when we were sick. She'd boil milk,
Oh, okay.
and we'd have
Okay.
boiled milk with nutmeg. You know what I mean?
And
Warm
so it
milk.
just comes out creamier with milk instead of water when you do the oatmeal.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, I don't know if you ever boiled milk. The problem with when you boil milk is like you get a layer of like film that you have to scrape off the top.
Yeah. Well, in the microwave, you're going to throw it together. You're going to throw it
Yeah,
together.
it's gonna be mixed together, so you won't see that. But yeah, it's just creamy.
I'll try it. I'll try it. It can't be worse than the, the cereal I've been eating. So The so the other so my first question before we transition to what I originally wanted to talk to you about, where's the interest coming from in transitioning to eating vegan or
Where is
eating
the interest? I
plant-based?
mean, I just
Yeah.
have two people that I respect that are vegan, and I don't think, one, I like to be able to control certain things,
Mhm.
and two, as I'm getting older, I just kind of want to, not that I'm not healthy because I personal trainer, what have you, but there are decisions that I can make in my diet that could be healthier.
Yeah.
I don't eat a lot of actual meat. That doesn't mean I don't eat a lot of animal-based products. I don't actually
Mhm.
eat a lot of meat to where it's not something, at the very least, I'm considering it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And when I consider things like this, it means I actively, proactively eliminate things from my diet that I just don't have to eat anymore.
Okay.
That's why I said it. It's a process, and because it doesn't mean like if my wife makes a steak, I'm not gonna eat the steak. What I
Right.
mean is there are, you know what I mean. There are things that, like, well, I don't need to eat that anymore. I don't,
Right.
you
So
know
you're
what I
not
mean?
going to go out
Like,
of your way to purchase things on your own. You're not going to
or
proactively
even
do it.
consume it if it's in front of me. Like, I don't just see any reason. I don't eat a lot of pork, so I don't see any reason to even eat pork anymore, period.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
don't see. So, and if this is, eventually I'll get into this mindset where, and again, I also have a defeatist mindset in the sense that I'm thinking to myself, just like when I quit smoking weed, like, how am I going to be able to do this? Right. Which helped me when I quit smoking weed by stop trying to so proactively, you know what I mean? Like, beat
Right.
myself up over quitting. And then I just kind of quit. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, I get that. I've done that before. There was a day where I was going to be sent home from one of these rickety ass telemarketing places in Buffalo when I was
mhm,
still living in Buffalo, and I was just like I didn't really feel like being sent home, but I was just kind of over it, and I was just kind of annoyed at the way the place worked because I was like, I was like the top employee, but they still micromanage you and try to squeeze out dollar for every hour where they'd be like, oh, you haven't made any sales today, go home. Like some real shit, like some real, hyper capitalist bullshit. And so I was over it. And so my attitude just kind of relaxed on the phone. Like I didn't care. It was just like a game to me. And then I made like a few sales back to back. And it was just kind of like a lesson and kind of what you're saying that sometimes
mhm,
if you try too hard, it's counterproductive.
mhm. Yeah, because you beat yourself up over stuff. You know what I mean? you
You get
know,
tense. You lose
yep.
your ability to get in the zone by getting too tense. That's kind of like why some of us talk about how in the hell are these basketball players winning championships or even playing a game at that level at all when they're smoking weed. And then someone finally told me, oh, because it relaxes them. So they're not
Yeah.
so tense. This is a high stakes game. Everything's on the line. They smoke a little bit of weed and they're relaxed. Now, at that level, their bodies and their level of training and their minds are totally different. So I couldn't understand it because I know what that does to me if I smoke. But them, it's totally different
Well, also too,
mindset.
yeah, it is a mindset. Because for me, same thing, right? Like, I haven't smoked since, I don't know, beginning of 2018.
Mhm.
So I would be walking around paranoid if I were in their position and I smoked right beforehand. But if it was 2018, I'd be fine.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it'd be a walk in the park. It'd be, a regular day for me. You know what I mean? But because I just haven't smoked in so long and as regularly as I had become accustomed to, you know what I mean? And again, when I say regularly, I didn't, I smoked. I smoked every day, but I didn't smoke nearly as much as the average weed smoker smokes,
Right.
even though I smoked every day.
Sure.
You know what I mean? My thing is when I'm high, I'm high. I'm not just gonna keep smoking. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
care
It's
how
like
many blunts
wasting
are in the session, how many
wasting
people are
money.
smoking. Yeah,
Yeah.
not even that. Like, I would just pass on other people's blunts. I'm
Yeah.
already
Yours is,
high.
yeah. 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 You don't want to ruin it really by getting too
Yeah.
high.
And I'm not just gonna smoke just to smoke. I smoke to
Yeah,
get high. Once I'm high, I'm good.
I did that too. I did that for too many years.
Yeah, exactly. My friends always like, man, you're a lightweight. Like, no, what do you mean? We go to these sessions, or be at a fight or something, and we'd have everyone have a blunt. And once I was high, I just pass.
Yeah,
I'm good. When
yeah,
I'm ready to, when I'm, you know what I mean? When I'm ready to smoke again or what have you, I'll smoke. But I'm good. Like, oh, you're a light. No, it's not that. It's that I smoke to get high, not to abuse marijuana. Like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna get any higher by
yeah.
continuing to hit these blunts. It's not gonna make me higher any longer. I'm still gonna come down at the same rate of time that I would have came down. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, yeah. Also, if it's hard to enjoy something when you're like blasted out of your mind. Like if I can't really communicate or you know put thoughts together, let alone words together, that's not enjoyable to me. That wasn't
Yeah.
the reason that I was doing it. Was to like convince the next person that I could keep going.
Right.
Um.
Right.
So okay. So the question that I had for you was: we've spoken a few times about BLM and defund, and
Hmm.
from your perspective, in your neighborhoods or where you've grown up or what you've seen from where you've traveled, for you, it's mostly a white thing. You see white people supporting BLM or defund. From
Or
my
non or black activists on some level that I don't think have their ear to the street.
okay,
Well,
or
yes,
okay,
yes, your
okay,
assessment is correct. I'm going to agree, and yes, I'm going to co-sign that.
okay, yeah, that's based on the last statement that you
Yes.
made. When you jumped in and you said white people. Now,
Yep.
from my perspective, and my perspective has a certain bias because you know, I work for an activist organization, right? So the people that
Hmm.
I'm around and the people that I've friended, um, are in large part people that I've met through movements. And so when I
Hmm.
say that there are a lot of black people involved or black people that started it, black people that are continuing, could be different. It could be different from the average person who isn't like working in that particular movement, right?
Right.
Um,
I think there's a disconnect, and I just want to say this real quick before you go on, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I think on some level it may. I think there's a disconnect with many of our subcultures throughout the country and those who represent us as activists or otherwise. I mean, just like the layman, because most people don't even know. Like, they can't tell you who it is that's fighting on your behalf for this thing.
okay,
At least most people is not a fair or true statement. At least based upon my experiences, which I'm actually superimposing over, I'm assuming this is the experience of like hoods
hmm,
all over the country. You understand
yeah,
what I'm saying?
sure. No, I mean that's fair. I mean that's where your position's going to come from, and I mean this helps me think about how people in general think about this stuff. Um, and I kind of thought I've been thinking about this, and I've been thinking about reaching out to a comrade of mine who is heavy deep in this work, a sister. She's actually not only is she an activist and a sister who's like in the trenches and
Hmm.
definitely not a bougie person by any means, but fighting to make rent and fighting to find reasonable places of rent and places that aren't trying to take advantage of you by charging you all types of fees before you move in, just like regular shit that working class people are going through. She also identifies as I want to say this correctly. Um, well, basically, for to make a long story short, since I don't know the exact phraseology of it, like someone who's like fat and proud, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
She considers herself, proud and like not hiding and like that kind of thing. Um, but she's in DC, She actually was the one who warned me. I had a birthday a few years ago where I did that Facebook birthday thing that you could do, and I
With the
told people,
donate to such and such.
yeah, yeah, and I did one to BLM, and she kind of warned me that there was something like the thing that I had people donate to like wasn't right or wasn't like the real BLM or it was like some kind of fake thing, which really upset me. And so I try to tell people to like, you know, try to take back their donations if they could, and then, donate to the correct thing. But long story short, she's BLM, she's doing the work in DC, and I was gonna ask her if she knew BLM/defund people in the Buffalo area, so I could kind of A, connect with them, and B, maybe even connect you to them, so we could figure out if Buffalo is one of the areas where these folks are doing a lot of work, or if they're visible there, or what the deal is, or where they're doing work, just so we could figure out how this stuff works. Because I just wonder if you know yeah, I just don't know how pervasive they are. Because I mean, activist work, it's hard because you only have so many people doing it, and so in a city the size of 300,000, if you have like, I don't know, a handful of people involved in one kind of work, I don't know, what's the chances that you have seen them,
So
in your
here's
neighborhood?
something that we can talk about by example, and I'll get you the name for a future show. So there's a guy, black guy, who's from the Western New York area.
Hmm.
At some point in time, he lived in the inner city of Buffalo.
Okay.
He's an active member of either a mosque or a church. He lives out in the suburbs. He has a family. He has a really good job. He has a pretty much, his background is shining, right?
Hmm.
So after the protests that took place across the country, Erie County decided that they were going to have a police oversight committee.
Okay.
And this committee was responsible for approaching ways to fix or change, violent outcomes from police interactions, as one of the things that they're responsible for. I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
Okay. So many of the people who were picked for this committee were people who, one, aren't black, two, live outside of the city of Buffalo or the inner city.
Okay.
Most of them in the suburbs.
Okay. Can
Like
we
people
pause
from
just for
Orchard Park.
1 sec?
Sure.
Okay, just 1 sec.
What about this guy, right?
Right.
So he went down to the holding center and he held a protest. And many people in the inner city, first of all, the entire inner city of Buffalo is suspicious of this oversight board. They want no part of it
Mhm.
because they don't have representation on this oversight board. Now, so I watched people argue on Facebook because this black guy is nominated to be on this oversight board. That's the last spot. And he's lobbying for people to support him. And there's been a debate on a friend of mine's Facebook page. And the reason why I mentioned her Facebook page is because it matters, because she ran for mayor. She's an activist who lives in the hood and has been an activist for, I don't know, 20 plus years. And so when she says things, it rings bells. People follow her. Like, she ran for mayor. She's actively debated against the mayoral candidates on social media. You understand what I'm saying? So she's got one of those pages where, people follow her page. You understand what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so this whole debate took place on her page. I went to elementary school with her, but this whole debate took place on her page, and they were very critical of this guy. And you had black people saying, well, why are you criticizing the brother? You have a problem with the oversight? We do. We have a problem with the oversight board. But the argument was, well, why are you criticizing this black dude? And, that's an easy argument to make, right? But our founding fathers wanted to revolt because of taxation without representation. So this is something that this is a core principle that people embrace. This guy, and this is what their argument is. One, we are upset with the oversight board, but here's this guy who's coming into the community now. Yes, he came from one of these communities. It would be like me. Like, one of the reasons why I don't go advocate in the inner city is because I own a house in Kenmore.
Okay.
I already know that my advocacy, my activism is going to have to be, yes, on Front Street, but behind the scenes. I can't go into your community and seek the spotlight. I can't even go into your community and expect you to embrace me.
Even though you grew up?
Even though I grew up there. Even though I absolutely grew up there, and I'm sure there will be people that relate to that, but there's a part of me that understands and recognizes the plight of the people that are currently living there. And I could put myself in their shoes and be like, yeah, but you're not here now. You get to go home. I could put myself in my shoes and understand that energy behind those words. You get to go home. You didn't stay here and raise your family here. You didn't stay here and continue to put your money here, even though every day I go to those communities and spend money, which I do. This is one of the things that I do to help. I also know, like, when it comes to leadership, you have to know where you can lead, where you can be effective, and where you can be impactful without creating enough of a controversy that actually defeats the purpose altogether. And this is, so people are questioning this guy. They're concerned. Like, what is your concern? Are you trying to establish a political career using us, even though you look like us? Yes, we're not going to discount that you came from here, that you've done great things, but you need to come here and you need to have conversations with the people who are leaders here on the ground. We need to be able to vet you. We need to be able to say yes or no. We need that. You just can't start lobbying and, propose your list of accolades to the right people and get elected and then represent us. You ain't come talk to us. Maybe everything that you're saying is above board, but you need to come sit down at the table with the actual people on the ground in this community who lead the community, who are out there every day, who, when there's cracks in the sidewalk on Box Street, like my friend who I'm talking about, she's taking pictures and raising a fuss about it. When there's empty lots from houses being torn down and there's no buildings being built, and she's out there raising a fuss about it. Like, she's raising a fuss about the little things, the things that people see every day in these communities. Why are there still potholes up and down Broadway? She's taking pictures and bringing these to people's attention. Why are you fixing these communities? Where's the money that was supposed to be injected? Why do we got potholes all up and down the street? Why are sidewalks cracked? Why are there empty lots on these houses in the hood where y'all turned down these houses, y'all burned or tore down these houses that y'all raided and just left empty lots, eyesores? Like, these are the things that people who live in these communities see every day, and they see her fighting for these things. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what I mean by...
Are you saying all of this to say that you don't see these people in your community, like from your community or living in these communities? You see them as people,
right? That's
coming from the outside.
What I was saying. Right, and I used him as an example because he's an example, and I don't know rightfully so or not, which is why I use the founding fathers as an example of, he's an example of what might happen to these people, or how these activists may be received by people who never see them. That's why I you know what I mean? Right. Like, by the people, he's just an example of how maybe they won't be received. Sometimes you build a level of notoriety on a national stage, people embrace you.
Well, a whole bunch of people. Is it possible that some of these people are connected, like, within these communities, that they're not outsiders?
Absolutely. I think so. I think it is possible. What I'm not, definitely don't let me say that They're not. I don't know who they are to say that they are or aren't. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not going to take that away from them, that there certainly is as much of a possibility that they are, for sure. But that's just, you know, a concern. And this is an example that played out this year here in Buffalo. It's still kind of playing out. I think that their energy is misdirected in the sense that, you know, before y'all make a public to do about it, arrange the sit down, have the conversation, get on either the same sheet of music or don't, and then direct your energies towards the rest of this oversight board that does not look like you and does not live here. You understand what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at with it. Like, I get it. You know, my friend, she always says, all kinfolk, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. You know, their suspicion is, are you using the people in this community to build your political career? Because,
and so what became of that? Who
well,
won
it's
that?
still an ongoing thing. It's still an ongoing thing. He's not on the oversight board yet. This board is obviously, it's just a new proposal. So they put out a list of candidates, and he was lobbying to be the last candidate. You know, it's still ongoing. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen much about it since, I would say, summer. But, you know, again, it's one of the things that our city is striving to do. And these are things that, you know, I don't know if I don't know that this has anything to do with defund at all, this particular deal. However, these are the things that I'm wary of too, because, and this is not an indictment on defund at all. This is an indictment on the powers that be, right? The powers that be like to co-opt things.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, you're right. We like defund, right? So we're gonna get a whole bunch of people that don't look like you to figure this out. Thanks for bringing it to us. And which is another one of the things that I'm worried about with activism in regards to defund. And the thing that I'm worried about, and it comes from my overall ignorance, my lack of my lack of understanding or access to full knowledge. I'm weary that these activists are using the tactic that they speak to the money, which is a good strategy, right? But if you speak into the money, you're not speaking to the people.
Wait, say that again. What do you mean?
When you go to the people that legislate, and your conversations are with them. You see what I'm saying? Like, when your conversation is with the people, not that it shouldn't be, but if it's primarily with the people that legislate.
Well, I don't think they have a leg to stand on without the people. Like, why would legislators...
That's what I'm getting at.
Well, no. My point is, why would legislators listen to them unless they are backed by the people?
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at. Like, how are you backed by the people? Like, you have to come into the community and get the people to back you. You have to come here and, like, this is what we want to do. Show and teach people how this could work. Like, you have to actually come there and talk to these people.
Yeah, I guess my point is, I haven't heard of, like, these groups trying to talk to legislators without supporting the community, because that's ineffective. Like, there's no reason.
That's what I'm getting at. I said I don't know. I don't know if they're. I don't know. I my lack of understanding and ignorance. Like, I don't know that they aren't.
Yeah, it just wouldn't make sense. It would be ineffective. No, I mean, it wouldn't be activism. No activist just walks into a legislator's room and says, "Hey, what's up? I'm here. This is what I believe." Like, the only reason for them to
in some cases, activists get together. I don't want to use the wrong terms. I don't want a whole bunch of activists to be pissed. Well, I mean, I don't care if a whole bunch of activists are pissed. Like, so you certainly have every opportunity to come on my show, contact Flavius, and educate me. Otherwise, like, if you're listening, you certainly have every opportunity. So if what I say pisses you off, it's just is what it is. So that having been said, you know, I don't know. Like, sometimes we get too full of ourselves. Sometimes we get, as leaders, we come to this understanding, or the misguided understanding that we know what's good for the people. So I don't know if this is a movement, and I don't know. I want to continue to preface, I don't know if this is a movement that started because, you know, top activists got together and decided this is what needs to happen, and this is our plan, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to these people in legislation, and we're going to go to these people in these positions, and we're going to put out and proliferate this plan. Or if they said, hey, go into your communities and gauge the temperature of your communities with this idea. Like, I don't know either way.
Yeah, I'm just telling you from what I know. The first way is ineffective. And the first thing that a legislator is going to look at is how many people you have on your side. And they care about getting reelected. They care about votes. So if some like people at the top decide a thing and they have no support in the community, then they'll just, you know, politician will be like, oh, okay, great. So let's have a chat sometime, and that'll be the end of it.
Well, what I mean is, though, some things are perception. So sometimes people have the support without actually, like, Pastor Pritchard doesn't have to come with the community. He can just say that I have the support of this community. And more than likely, he's going to be taken as credible because he's a common councilman. He's got like multiple churches. He's like the biggest churches in Buffalo, and he might not have ever talked to them about it.
So,
but some legislator is going to look at Pastor Pritchard and assume that his constituency comes with him.
Well, let me push back against that. These legislators know the game. They play it a certain way. Like, when Obama was in office, he said something that was interesting to me. He was asking his constituents to write letters, to make phone calls, and to make noise about certain issues, so he would have the power to get things done. That's telling you that even someone at that level still needs to show that this is something that the people want. So, like, you know, with like all the work that I've done throughout the years, there's different ways to show that. You can get people to write physical letters, which, you know, takes a lot of work, but it's great because you've had conversations with people face to face, one-on-one, you know, really engaging the public. You can get people to pick up the phone and just swamp their leaders with phone calls, which, you know, really annoys them, but lets them know that there's some issue that's really being, you know, pushed out there. You know, you can do these different things. Then when a leader walks into a room and says, look, I have 50,000, you know, constituents in your district who feel this way. What do you say about this? Can we get you to commit to passing this bill? That's like, they're going to have to take you seriously, because that can be an issue that's used in the next election. And we can say, remember, you know, this most important issue that we all cared about, defund, you know, we care about our kids and blah, blah, blah. Well, this person would not commit to this issue, but look at this great person from your community that's running. This person is committing to the issue. Oh yeah, we know such and such. That person's been a lifelong activist. They're not even a politician. Well, we're going to get them to run so we can get rid of the other person. That's like actual like legwork, and that's actual activism. That other thing you described is not. I mean, maybe there's people who try to front, but like, you know, without the leaders feeling the pressure or getting the phone calls or missing support from their constituents, they're not going to feel any pressure. If they're not feeling any pressure, there's not going to be any movement.
Okay, good point. Just a second, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, that's all I had to say. Again, I'm just speaking to that disconnect that I feel like that may exist. Maybe not. Maybe there isn't a disconnect. I just know that, and I mean, it's a two-way street, right? Like many of the people that I feel may be disconnected also have to care. But then there's also some systemic things that I'm not going to discount either. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. And visibility matters too. If these activists need to be more visible, you need to knock on doors and more doors, in the hood, then that's important too. So people, know what they represent or who they are.
And I don't want to speak like the hood is the only thing that matters. I mean, the hood isn't the definition of our culture, right? Unlike some would have you believe, you know what I mean? Those other people that don't look like us that seem to be disconnected and put out their own narrative of how our communities work.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't want to, you know what I mean? Definitely don't want to make it seem like, our communities are just the hood.
Right.
I don't subscribe to that either. I certainly think that, if you look at the hood as like hoods all over the country, there's a lot of people who do live in such situations, right? A large percentage, or at least a significant percentage of our culture lives in communities that can be self-described as the hood, right?
Yeah, and they're more likely to be ignored.
And they're also more likely to ignore. And again, though, that comes from, I think there's some systemic things at play there. You know what I mean? Certainly, there's some systemic things. And when I say ignore, maybe they're more likely to be ignorant in the sense that they just don't know. They're not privy to, they're not exposed to, which then it comes full circle, right? Like activists need to be more visible.
Mm-hmm.
I think activists need to be more visible, but then it speaks to something that you said. So there's always this catch-22 that the enemy is aware of, right? Like it speaks to something that you said, right? Like there's just not enough. And being an activist is tough. You know what I mean? And I'm certain with, their limited numbers, they can't check every box. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
And they can't be expected to. So it's like, man, it's tough. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's tough. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry. I think I kind of hijacked the conversation.
No, I mean, you're right. You're on point. I said what I needed to say for a while. You said what you needed to say. I mean, I think it makes sense why activists are always looking for more and more volunteers in the neighborhood. to proliferate the message.
You know, and it's interesting that I speak a certain way because I don't have it in me for activism. You know what I mean? And here I am,
Right.
you know, speaking the way, you know, I mean, I just don't. It doesn't mean that I couldn't do it. It's just not something that not in the manner that, well, I guess there isn't really a specific way. So in that case, I guess I do, because, you know, there are things that I do. You understand what I'm saying? But I also feel like I know my lane, right? Like, you know, so I try to do things, you know, I'm not gonna, I can't go into, and maybe I can, but I don't think that I can just go into somebody's community and have conversations with people that aren't gonna see me tomorrow.
Right.
Or aren't gonna, you know, there are communities that I can go to, but those are communities where the people know me because I'm from there.
So speaking of which, I wanted to get into, last time we kind of had a bit of this conversation. You said something about, like, you know, Mike, you know, I grew up with a bunch of, you know, I don't know if you said gorillas and this and that.
When we were talking with Dwayne.
Yeah. So yeah, what did you mean by that?
I mean, like, I grew up in the hood on the block.
Right.
In an area where, at a time period, and in an area where, like, if you were from one neighborhood, you couldn't just go to another neighborhood. You couldn't be within a certain age group and black and walk down the street in another neighborhood without somebody checking you.
Okay.
Period. Like, period. Like, it was gonna happen.
Right.
Not now, it's not that way, but back then it was going to happen. If you walked into another neighborhood and you were within a certain age group and you were black, you were going to be checked.
Through the mid 90s?
Yeah, through the late 80s, throughout the 90s. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Every neighborhood was a posse when I grew up. Every neighborhood had a posse.
Right.
This street posse, that street posse, this belt posse, that, you know what I mean?
And what was the context? Why did you bring that up? Because we were talking about BLM. We were talking about BLM and Defund, and then you had brought up that, you know, you were like, white people, and then, you know, we did our thing where I was like, well, you know, it's not just white people, etc. And then you
because we were talking about the different communities that you and I have. I didn't, because you had mentioned that, you know, when I was talking about, we were talking about something, and you're like, no, it's just not just white people. I could introduce you to people, black people from my Facebook community or my social media community, which, you know, would show me differently. And that's when I said, in contrast to that, most of my black friends in my social media community come from where I grew up, or many of the areas that I grew up in. You understand what I'm saying? So they're, you know, a majority, there are a minority that are like you. I'm not saying all black people are, you know, gangster or what have you. A majority of my friends, and some of them are absolutely, like, they're not products of their environment either, right? They're not today 40-year-old products of their environment. You know what I mean? But a majority of the people that are men in particular, that are attached to my social media, come from, and that's why Dwayne co-signed it, because we kind of grew up a certain way. Like, Dwayne grew up across the street from the projects. You understand what I'm saying? So like, the people that were in our world coming up are decidedly different than some of the activists that you've had the pleasure of working with and meeting that are attached. You understand what I'm saying? There's two different worlds while we're from the same culture. You understand what I'm saying? And many of them, I'm sure, come from those same worlds, but just have an opportunity not to still be products of those environments. You see what I'm saying? Whereas, you know, I half the people that are black men that I'm attached to on social media, I could go find them still standing on the U in Jasper.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or you know, sitting in the trap house. I mean, you know, to be honest, half of my social media posts before 2018, I would be sitting at my man Dre's house in my man's trap house.
Okay.
Like sitting right in the trap house. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's really what it is. Like, and don't get me wrong, because I'm, you know, I'm a spiritual person, so I don't just, and I code switch. So I have so many different groups of friends from different walks of life because I can navigate any environment I'm in successfully. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I don't just have friends like that, but absolutely people will tell you, like, Mike, like I'm either, you know, I used to joke when, if I had people come to my house to smoke weed, say 3 years ago, I could have 10 people at my house smoking. And people used to joke, like, Ish, you're the only person I know that could get so many people from so many different walks of life in one location. Like I'd have hardened gangsters, right?
Yeah.
Then like a friend of mine from church, he wouldn't smoke, but he'd be here, right?
Okay.
Because they come train with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when I say hardened gangsters, like hardened gangsters. Like you'd be surprised, kind of like how you and my friend, a couple of, like my friend Carrie, are friends on Facebook now. You'd be surprised how many spiderweb connections like that are on my Facebook group because people came to my house. People who would never have interacted ever in life are friends on social media because they met at my house.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like this is, you know, I can go down a list of instances like that on my social media where, oh yeah, these people are friends because they met at my house. They would have never been friends. They would have never crossed paths with each other, not on friendly terms.
Sure.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it just, and so, but yeah, so I do definitely, but I'm very comfortable and have been very comfortable until recently, like going back to my hood and being on the block.
Okay.
Until like 3 years ago.
Is that because things have changed and you don't recognize it?
Things changed for me spiritually.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So because of that, I don't like to put myself, although like my man who's trapped, we still, every time a major fight is on, I'm at his house. Okay. I'll be, you know, my friends from church will be like, yo, where you watching the fight at? I'll be like, yo, my man house. You're welcome to come. However,
right.
You know what I mean? I want you to know what time it is.
Right.
Because
do they still come?
No.
Okay.
No. But you know, I'm not disowning my friends.
Sure.
I just have to do certain things to make sure that spiritually I'm still walking a certain way.
Yeah.
So I had to remove some things, not my friends, but exposure to some things that my friends were involved in from my life. You know what I mean? I can't be around people smoking weed all the time and, you know, selling dope. And I can be around you if you're smoking weed, fine. I just can't be around you all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't be around, you know, dope, and I can't. You know what I mean? So there's, you know, things like that, like, you know, but, you know, yeah, that's what I was getting at, though. It's just that, so for me, yeah, I'm not seeing, you know, people on my side screaming defund. When I say on my side, that includes you. So you are one of those people. You understand what I'm saying? But again, you're in a minority.
Sure.
I don't have the pleasure of going into certain communities and having conversations that are reciprocated on such subjects.
For sugar Dale.
You know, it's either, yeah, defund them so I can, you know, get away with doing what I do, or who's going to stop such and such from doing what he does, because you don't really understand. You understand what I'm saying? You don't really have a full concept of what they mean by defund. And I get it, because the tag defund was not meant for you, which is the reason why I criticize activism in this specific situation, because you confuse the people you're trying to help, because it really doesn't mean what you're saying it means. What you say it means, you're using the word defund to be provocative. But that's not helpful to the person on the street who's trying to understand it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's why it's like, well, did you consider The people
Well,
that you're trying to help?
well, yeah, I think it becomes more of some of the conversations we've had before. Like it becomes more of a art of war kind of thing. Like, does breaking every message down and distilling it in a way that the average person immediately gets it get you to your goal, or does dividing the populace into those who are with us and those who don't get us, those who are with us in the trenches and who are down for this real shit and for making controversial uh, conversations and news happen, right? Like, do we get to our goal if all of these news reporters aren't talking shit about it, if Obama's not talking shit about it? Do we get to our goal by, using some softer phrase?
But that minimizes the potential of the art of war that you're using. It is art of war, but you have to find a better way. You have to find a better balance, because then you're going to find yourself fighting a battle against those you're trying to help. And a lot of times people get frustrated when they do that. You know what I mean? People get mad at me. Mike, immediately take umbrage when I say I'm not keen on defund.
Right.
That's when we first started this conversation. It's one of the first things I said to you. Like, people take umbrage and you could hear it. It's not like we're just going to have a conversation. It's like something's wrong with you. What do you mean you don't? Seriously.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Well, maybe there's different stages of this conversation, because people said the same thing about BLM in the beginning, and some people still do. And when I say this to some of the people that I'm speaking to, including, supporters of our organization, they're kind of like aghast that I'm speaking to people who would actually say, Black Lives Matter too, right? They're like, no, why would you need to change the message to that? So maybe it's just where we are in the conversation. Maybe that's okay. Maybe it's not supposed to be like this comfortable, thing where we just get from 0 to 60 real quick. Maybe we have to like have these conversations,
So the
But
art of
even
war
in
teaches
my
us. The art of war
humility,
teaches us that, right, haste is our weapon, and we need to be swift, and we need to appear like a lamb and then strike like a lion. And I'm paraphrasing that, but haste, like we have to seize advantage of opportunity, and we have to make haste. And what I mean by this is like we have to so the war is won in the temple planning, meaning you win the war in the planning phase. Like this is when you win the war. When you attack, it implies weakness. That's the implication that your adversary gets. It implies lack. So you have to attack. Defense implies strength. So you hold. And I'm jumping around here to say that because I agree with what you're saying. But if conversations need to be had, then our plan needs to be better. That's all I'm getting at. Like if this is something,
maybe they want to have conversations. Maybe they want to push. Maybe they want to push a national conversation. Right. A lot of the organizing I do is, back in the day, it was 2-3 minutes, get a contribution, you're gold. And then it was like, oh, this organization, I heard they got a long rap, and kind of like almost looking at them like something's wrong with them. But, they're also making deeper, more meaningful connections, and they're also getting stronger contributions. Then it comes to, man, you want me to set up a half an hour conversation with someone? And really it's a half an hour to 45 minutes. But my mind always goes to the shortest part of that of that, you know, of that phrase, because I'm always thinking, the shortest and the sweetest of that range, rather. But then I start to realize, like, okay, it's not just like there's not just an end game here. Like, it's not just I'm talking to these people so I can get something out of them, right? It's no longer transactional. We actually want to forge a relationship with these people. So the reason why it takes half an hour at the minimum is I'm going to offer up a bunch of stuff about myself, tell them, a bit about my background, how I got into these type of movements, a history of my work with WFP. Then I'm going to offer up how I feel about certain things like defund, BLM. I might choose, one that can be considered a little controversial, because if they're on my side and I say, yeah, this one, is controversial for some folks, and I start talking about defund and they're all in, now like we forged a stronger connection, because now they're talking to someone who agrees with them on an issue that's controversial to the outside world. And now I get to let
Okay,
them do the
but
same thing.
but when you go into a community and you say and you begin to explain defund, and you have to say, well, first of all, defund doesn't really mean defund. Like it's kind of like you're walking back, you're taking 2 steps back to go forward.
I mean, I would never describe something that way, but here's the thing, like not everyone feels that way. Like, we have strong advocates who are fighting with us and who are on our side, who agree with us, who are also helping spread the message. But um, I did speak to one person who wasn't sure in the beginning, and then we had our conversation, and then she was like, "Oh, I agree with that." Right? So, I mean, that was fine too, but either way, we had a conversation, right? I didn't know where she was going to be when it started, but it was like a deep conversation, and that was like a big part of it.
Mm.
So in some sense, you're forcing a conversation to be had, right? It's not just, oh, you agree, I agree, cool, good message, move on to the next one. You know?
Hmm. Well, I do agree that conversations need to be had. I think that, and obviously there's levels to it. Those people who understand what defund really means and are still apprehensive, there's that conversation. Then there's the conversation with the people who defund is also going to help, that don't even understand, or really know anything about it. There's that conversation. And then there's the conversation that needs to be had with the people that are going to be implementing or acquiescing to such changes.
Mhm.
There's a lot of parallel arguments that are going to have to be made. That's
What do you mean?
There's a lot of, I mean, you got to have you got to be able to have a conversation, an explanation, or an argument on all 3 levels.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And so how does this work? Is this like are we going to approach this by, major cities, state per state?
Um, well, it depends on races, right? Like, uh, when we have a great person running in a um, district that, tends to vote a certain way, or in a progressive district, we have a better chance of spreading that message. If it's in a very heavily dense district like in the Bronx where Jamal Bowman is, that's a huge win for an area that's really been affected by the police. So that's like a great victory that can affect a lot of people. And Jamal Bowman is really like the people's champ. So he's able to like speak truth to power to a lot of people. So he'll be able to magnify this message. And whether, some people like him because he wears a Wu-Tang mask, or other people like him because he's got like reparations front and center as part of his agenda, or other people like him because he's got Reconstruction or Truth and Reconciliation. He's going to be able to help put these messages out there. And so you got your Jamal Bowmans, your Mondaire Jones, you've got stars throughout the country who are able to help proliferate this message. So I think it's done in a way where you get in, where you can fit in, where you can win, and you can overturn, maybe an establishment person and get someone raw and radical in there. You can help shape these messages where it counts. And then we also have our assemblies, sometimes with hundreds of people, including these leaders, and we, strategize and figure out how to mobilize. And, you have your Senate races like in Georgia, that we're putting a lot of effort into. And, there's a national conversation, and there's, people go back out to where they are, have these conversations and win these races and affect, more change and more people. And again, what once seemed like totally out of pocket and unreasonable, in a few years, that's the norm, right? A few years ago, a few years ago, you don't hear too many white folks talking about white supremacy, and being comfortable talking about it, let alone saying it exists outside of some small pockets of KKK or something. And now it's like, it's part of the lexicon. So you kind of, through the conversations and through the work, you kind of change hearts and minds, or open people up that way.
Well, I'm becoming, and again, I invite anybody, activist or otherwise, you are welcome to come on that ish and have your say on defund, on some of the things that you are actually implementing, some of the things that you're involved in, some of the things that other people like you are involved in, some of the things that people that you've spoken with, either from the community in legislation or at any level in this process, have had to offer. Like, I'm down to hear it.
Cool.
I'm just throwing that out there for anyone that's listening or maybe listening. I'm down to hear it. I'm down to be taken to task on anything that I've said as well.
Take them to task, y'all. Take them to task. So speaking of tasks, I do need to get back to some work, but are we still on for 6 o'clock with Joey?
I didn't know that we were, but I am, sure.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought we discussed that in the beginning.
I just know you said Joey wants to go on at 6. Can you go on now?
Oh, I see. I got you. Okay.
I am down for sure.
Okay, cool. So yeah, let's get back up in a bit. That was a great segment. It's good to be back on that ish.
Yep. See you at 6, bro.
Okay. Peace.
All right.